I wake up every morning to the same nagging feeling, a tight knot in my chest that never really goes away. It's not just the alarm or the dread of another long day at work, it's the weight of everything that feels like it's closing in on me, slowly but relentlessly. Financial pressure. It's become this invisible force in my life, dictating my decisions, draining my energy, and slowly dimming the light of my dreams. I'm in my mid-20s, supposed to be in the prime of discovering life, but instead, I'm caught in a loop where expenses keep growing, and my income barely stretches to cover the basics. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, every month, these costs rise just enough to make me scramble. I'm not talking about luxury or extravagance, I mean just surviving. Even when I try to cut back, there's always something that costs more, something that pushes the needle up. Take food, for example. I used to enjoy cooking, trying new recipes, experimenting with ingredients. Now, I buy whatever's cheapest, often sacrificing quality or nutrition just to save a few dollars. Sometimes, I skip meals, convincing myself it's okay because I'll eat later, though later often turns into never. There's this constant background noise in my head, can I really afford this? I calculate prices in my mind while I shop, mentally tossing items out of the cart if they push the total over my budget. Transportation is another drain. I rely on public transit, but fares keep increasing, and delays make me late more often than not. I've thought about getting a car, but the idea of monthly payments, insurance, gas, and maintenance, it feels like a nightmare I can't afford to live through. So, I stick to the bus and subway, even when it's uncomfortable or slow, because it's the lesser evil. Bills pile up too, like an avalanche I can't stop. Utilities have crept higher every year, and it's embarrassing to admit how many times I've had to call to negotiate payment plans just to avoid shutoffs. There's this constant dread every time the mail comes. Is it another late notice? A past due bill? A call from the bank? I feel trapped in a system that's designed to squeeze every cent out of me, no matter how hard I work. My income hasn't kept pace with inflation or the rising cost of living, and no matter what I do, I'm always one step behind. I work 2 jobs, one full-time at a retail store and a part-time gig on weekends delivering food. Both are exhausting, but I need the hours. The money's not great, but it's what keeps the lights on and food on the table. I used to think that if I just worked hard enough, saved enough, I'd eventually break free. But that hope has faded over time. Now, it's more about survival than progress. The emotional toll is heavy. I'm tired, physically, yes, but more than that, mentally and emotionally drained. There's a persistent anxiety that doesn't go away. It's the fear of what happens if I miss a payment, if my hours get cut, if some unexpected expense comes up. It's the embarrassment of having to say no to friends when they want to hang out somewhere because I simply can't afford it. It's the loneliness that creeps in when I watch others my age travel, buy homes, or just live without this cloud hanging over them. I've had to postpone so many dreams. I wanted to go back to school, finish my degree, maybe even start a small business one day. I dreamed of moving out of this cramped apartment, of having a space that felt like mine. I wanted to travel, see the world beyond the city's borders, experience new cultures and perspectives. But each of these dreams feels like a distant luxury, a ticket I can't buy right now. Sometimes, I let myself think about what life could be if things were different. If wages matched the rising costs. If I had support or safety nets that weren't just a vague hope. But then reality hits, bills to pay, rent to cover, a future that feels uncertain. I'm stuck in this cycle where every step forward feels like it requires 2 steps back. Coping isn't easy. I try to focus on small things, moments of joy in a cup of coffee with a friend, a walk in the park, a good book borrowed from the library. I lean on the people who understand, who don't judge when I say no or when I'm overwhelmed. Sometimes, I cry quietly at night, releasing the pressure I can't show during the day. But even in the struggle, there's a flicker of hope. I hold on to the belief that this isn't the end of my story. That maybe, somehow, things will change. That I'll find a way to live without feeling so crushed by financial pressure. For now, I take it one day at a time, trying to be gentle with myself, recognizing that surviving this system is no small feat. This is my truth, a story of quiet resilience in a world that often feels indifferent. I'm more than my paycheck, more than my bills. I'm still here, still hoping, still dreaming, waiting for the day when I'm not just surviving, but truly living. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never imagined that money would become the loudest voice in my head, constant, nagging, and impossible to ignore. It's like this invisible weight pressing down on me every single day, shaping every choice, twisting every plan I try to make. I'm 27 now, and if you asked me a few years ago where I saw myself, I would have painted a much brighter picture. I thought by now I'd be settled somewhere, a decent job, a modest apartment, maybe even saving a little for the future. But instead, I'm trapped in this endless cycle where the cost of living feels like it's sprinting ahead, and my paycheck is barely keeping up, if it even does. The economy feels like a beast with a hunger that never quits. Rent keeps going up, groceries get more expensive, gas prices climb just as I need to drive to work or visit my family, and any extra expense feels like a luxury I just can't afford. Every month, I feel like I'm juggling flaming knives, trying to make sure the bills are paid while also not starving or losing the internet, because honestly, the internet is how I keep in touch with the world and job opportunities. Some nights, I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I got here. How did I become someone who has to choose between heating the apartment and buying groceries? It's exhausting, more exhausting than I can explain. When your income doesn't stretch, it makes every decision a minefield. I can't just say, let's go out for dinner, or I want to buy a new jacket, without that immediate pang of guilt and calculation. Should I spend that $15 on a night out with friends to keep my sanity, or save it for the unexpected doctor's bill? Should I pay off an old credit card or try to stock up on groceries to avoid eating instant noodles for the 5th night in a row? Those decisions feel small on the surface but huge in their consequences. And they add up, wearing me down. I think the worst part is feeling like I'm stuck. Like I'm caught in a system designed for me to keep running in place, never really moving forward. Every time I think about asking for a raise, I hesitate because I know the company's struggling too, or I'm afraid I'll come off as greedy. Even when I do work extra hours, the increase is barely noticeable once taxes and deductions hit. And so, expenses continue their upward march while my income just trickles in at the same old pace. It's like climbing a mountain where the summit keeps moving farther away the more I try to get closer. Emotionally, this constant pressure wears on me in ways I didn't expect. Some days, I feel ashamed that I can't just make it work or keep up with peers who seem to have their lives together. Social media doesn't help, it's a highlight reel of success and vacations and career wins, and I'm sitting here trying to figure out if I can afford the bus fare to a friend's place. It's lonely because I don't want to burden anyone with my worries, but at the same time, I crave understanding. Sometimes I feel like crying, but I hold it back because crying feels like admitting defeat. I do have my coping mechanisms, though. I've gotten pretty good at budgeting, down to tracking every cent on a spreadsheet. It's not glamorous, but it gives me a sliver of control. I also find little pockets of joy where I can: free community events, long walks in the park, cooking meals from scratch to save money but also find some creative escape. And I talk to my closest friends when I can muster the courage. They remind me that I'm not alone in this, even if our struggles look different. But the dreams I once had feel so far away now. I wanted to travel, to see new places, learn new things, feel the thrill of adventure. I wanted to go back to school someday, maybe get a degree that could open new doors. I dreamed of buying a small place to call my own, a space where I could build a life without the constant threat of eviction or rent hikes. I wanted stability, freedom, and a chance to breathe without that gnawing financial anxiety. Now, Those dreams are parked in the maybe someday lot, shoved to the back of my mind because right now, survival takes all my energy. Sometimes, I worry about what the future holds. Will I ever break free from this cycle? Or am I destined to keep scraping by, watching my hopes get smaller as my expenses grow? But despite everything, I try to hold on to hope. Hope that the economy might shift, that new opportunities will come, that maybe I'll find a way to make my money work for me rather than the other way around. I remind myself that my worth isn't defined by my bank balance, even though the world often makes me feel otherwise. So, here I am, day by day, trying to keep my head above water. It's messy and hard and sometimes heartbreaking, but I'm still here. Still fighting, still dreaming quietly in the dark, still hoping for a brighter tomorrow, even if it feels a million miles away. I still remember the exact moment I realized that no matter how hard I worked, I was sinking deeper in a sea of bills and expenses. It was last winter, a chilly Thursday evening, and I was staring at my bank app on my phone, watching my balance inch lower by the hour. The paycheck I'd just received seemed like a cruel joke, barely enough to cover rent, groceries, and the ever-growing pile of debt I'd been carrying for years. And yet, somehow, the cost of everything else kept climbing faster than I could earn. It's like running on a treadmill that speeds up every day, no matter how fast you try to run. I'm 27 now, and I've been juggling full-time work and side gigs since college, always hoping to get ahead. But ahead never comes. My job pays the bills, but it doesn't leave much room for anything else. I live in a small, one-bedroom apartment in a city that feels both full of opportunity and utterly indifferent to people like me. Every month, rent goes up. Utilities climb. Food prices fluctuate but tend to edge higher, too. I've learned to count every cent, scrutinizing my grocery list like a hawk, cutting out any luxuries, which means dinners out, new clothes, or even a cup of coffee from my favorite cafe. All these little things that once brought joy now feel like distant memories. It's exhausting, this constant balancing act. I wake up with a knot in my stomach, thinking about how I'm going to make it through the month. Every unexpected expense, a doctor's visit, a car repair, or even a surge in the heating bill during winter, feels like a punch to the gut. It's not just about money, it's about feeling trapped. Like the system is designed to keep people like me on the edge, struggling to stay afloat while the world moves on around us. And no matter how hard I try, I can't break free. The emotional toll is harder to explain than the math. There are nights when I lie awake, overwhelmed by a sense of hopelessness. I think about all the dreams I once had, the places I wanted to travel, the career moves I dreamed of making, the freedom I imagined I'd have by now. But those dreams have been pushed further and further away, replaced by a harsh reality where I'm just trying to survive. Sometimes, I feel invisible, like my struggles are something I have to hide because they don't fit the narrative of success or ambition that society celebrates. And yet, I keep going. I try to find small pockets of peace, reading, walking in the park, calling a friend. I remind myself that I'm not alone, that so many people are caught in this same cycle of rising costs and stagnant wages. I've learned to ask for help when I need it, even if it feels humiliating sometimes. I budget obsessively, and I've gotten creative about saving money, meal prepping, buying secondhand, canceling subscriptions. It's not glamorous, but it's survival. Sometimes, I allow myself to hope. I think about what life could look like if I ever get a break, a stable job with better pay, affordable housing, or just a sudden drop in the cost of living. I dream about what I could do with extra money, finally finishing my degree, starting my own business, or even just having a small emergency fund so I don't have to panic every time something goes wrong. Those hopes keep me going, even when the present feels overwhelming. But the truth is, the weight of this financial pressure feels like a chain around my ankles, holding me down and making every step forward harder than the last. It's a reminder that even hard work and determination aren't always enough to escape a system that favors those who already have. And that's a bitter, heartbreaking realization to carry every day. Still, I'm here. I'm fighting. Because giving up isn't an option. I don't know when things will get better, but I hold on to the belief that they will, someday. Until then, I'll keep navigating this impossible landscape, one paycheck, one bill, one day at a time. Because even in the struggle, there's a stubborn flicker of hope that refuses to go out. I never imagined that feeling like I'm drowning could come not from some sudden catastrophe, but from the slow, relentless rise of bills and the sting of an empty wallet at the end of every month. I'm 26 now, and it feels like my entire adult life has been one long balancing act on a tightrope, except the wind keeps picking up and the rope keeps getting thinner. Growing up, I was taught the usual: work hard, save, be responsible. But the world I stepped into right after college is nothing like that simple equation. Rent is a mountain I can't climb, groceries feel like a luxury, and every unexpected expense is a storm that threatens to wash away what little I have left. The paycheck I get barely stretches to cover the essentials. Somehow, the cost of living keeps accelerating: utilities, gas, internet, even coffee, while my income inches forward at a snail's pace, if it moves at all. Every day, I feel trapped inside a system designed to keep me scrambling. It's like running on a treadmill set to an impossible speed. No matter how fast I go, the finish line stays just out of reach. I look at the emails from my landlord, the grocery receipts, the medical bills, and all I can think is, how am I supposed to breathe in this pressure? The stress isn't just financial, it's emotional, psychological. It's the quiet ache of watching your dreams shrink because reality is so heavy. I remember the early days of my first real job, bright-eyed and hopeful. I thought I'd be able to start saving, maybe plan a trip, or even move into a nicer place with a roommate. But then the rent jumped, my car broke down, and suddenly I was choosing between fixing my brakes or paying for a doctor's appointment. I chose the brakes, because I can't get to work if I can't drive. But then the doctor's bill haunted me, turning into calls and reminders that made my chest tighten every time my phone rang. The weight of these choices is exhausting. I constantly analyze my spending. Do I really need lunch out today? Can I skip the new shoes? Maybe I should cancel my gym membership. Even the small pleasures feel like betrayals of my budget. Sometimes I get a pang of guilt for buying a latte or a book, things I used to enjoy freely. Now, those are calculated indulgences, rare rewards that come with a mental cost. My emotional well-being has taken a hit. I'm often anxious, jittery, and distracted. It's hard to focus on anything else when your mind keeps circling around money: how much is left, what bills are due, what emergencies might arise. The fear of falling behind is constant. Friends talk about buying homes, getting engaged, traveling. I smile and listen, but inside I feel like I'm running a race with no finish line in sight. That comparison sometimes deepens the sense of failure, like I'm missing some secret to life everyone else figured out. Coping has become a patchwork of strategies. I talk to friends when I can, though it's hard to admit how tight things really are. Sometimes I just try to laugh it off, pretending I'm okay. There are moments when I binge-watch shows to escape, or dive into books to live in other worlds for a while. On bad days, I just close my eyes and breathe, reminding myself that this isn't permanent, even if it feels that way. Journaling helps too. Putting the mess of feelings into words makes them less scary. The dreams I once held so close have been pushed further and further away. I used to want to travel the world, learn a new language, maybe start my own business someday. Now those goals feel like distant stars, beautiful and inspiring, but out of reach for years, maybe decades. Buying a home? Forget it. Saving for retirement? A fantasy. I keep telling myself it's temporary, that if I can just get through this period, things will change. But hope is fragile when the present feels like quicksand. Despite everything, I'm trying to hold on to small sparks of hope. I remind myself that I'm not alone, so many people are struggling too, and that gives me some comfort. I try to celebrate the small wins: paying a bill on time, sticking to my budget, making a healthy meal instead of fast food. Those tiny victories keep me moving forward. It's hard to describe the feeling of being caught in this cycle, like you're running, but the ground beneath your feet keeps slipping away. The system isn't broken just for me, it's broken for so many of us. And sometimes the hardest part is not knowing when or if it will get better. But I cling to the belief that it will, somehow. Because what else is there? I want to believe that someday I'll look back and see this time as the storm that made me stronger, not the cage that trapped me. For now, I'm just taking it day by day, trying to stay afloat, and dreaming quietly of a future where my worries aren't measured in dollars and cents. A future where I can finally breathe again. Some days, it feels like I'm just trying to keep my head above water, and most of the time, it's not even clear if I'm succeeding. I'm 26, living paycheck to paycheck, and every month it's the same cycle. Rent eats up half my income, groceries and bills chip away the rest, and then there's always something unexpected, a car repair, a medical bill, or just the rising cost of literally everything. I can't remember the last time I felt truly free with my money. The economic pressure is constant. It's like a low hum in the background of every decision I make. When I go to the grocery store, I'm not picking what I want or what's healthy, I'm picking what's cheapest, what will stretch the furthest, and what won't leave me starving before the next paycheck. Sometimes that means instant noodles or skipping fresh produce. I tell myself it's just temporary, but those compromises have stretched into months, then years. It's exhausting. Bills come in faster than I can pay them. Utilities, phone, internet, student loans, they pile up, and the interest rates just make the mountain higher. I watch my friends post about new jobs, vacations, or just weekends out without a care, and I feel like I'm stuck in a loop where every dollar I make barely covers what I owe. It's frustrating and humiliating to admit that I can't keep up. The strangest part is how invisible this struggle feels to others. People assume because I have a job, I'm okay. They don't see the late nights spent budgeting, the anxiety that wakes me up in the middle of the night, or the moments I've had to swallow my pride and ask for help. There's this pressure to pretend everything is fine, to smile and say I'm managing, even when the truth is I'm scared I'll never get ahead. I had dreams once. I wanted to travel, maybe study further, save up for a down payment on a place of my own. I imagined a life where money wasn't a chain but a tool, something to help me grow, not something that constantly drags me down. But those dreams feel distant now, like they belong to someone else's life. For me, right now, it's about survival. Getting through today without missing a payment or falling behind. Sometimes I feel trapped, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up while I'm getting slower. Expenses rise with inflation, but my salary barely budges. Every time I think about asking for a raise or a better job, I hesitate. The job market is tight, and I can't risk losing what I have. So, I stay put, waiting for a break that never seems to come. To cope, I've developed a routine of strict budgeting, cutting back on everything that's not absolutely necessary. I skip social events to save money, even when I want to be with friends. I've found small comforts, cooking at home, reading books from the library, late-night walks, anything to remind myself there's still life beyond the numbers. But it's a thin thread of hope. Emotionally, it's draining. There are days when the stress feels unbearable, when I'm overwhelmed by the weight of it all. Sometimes I cry alone, feeling ashamed for not having made it yet, for not having figured out how to beat the system. But I also remind myself that this doesn't define me, that I'm doing the best I can in a system that's stacked against people like me. I hold on to the hope that things will change. Maybe it's naive, but I believe in a future where I can breathe easier, where I can invest in myself without fear. I want to build a life where money supports my happiness, not limits it. Until then, I keep moving forward, one day at a time, hoping the treadmill will slow, or that I'll find a way off. This is my reality, not glamorous or inspiring, but real. And maybe sharing it makes me feel less alone in this struggle. Because I know there are so many others out there, caught in the same cycle, fighting the same fight. And that, somehow, makes me feel a little less trapped. I never thought I'd find myself here, constantly watching my bank balance shrink while my bills keep climbing like an endless mountain. I'm 27 now, but for years it's felt like I've been stuck in slow motion, trapped in a cycle where no matter how hard I work or how careful I am, the numbers just don't add up. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket, the water drains faster than I can pour it in. Every morning, I wake up with this gnawing knot in my stomach. The first thing I do before even getting out of bed is check my phone, my bank app, the credit card balance, the upcoming rent reminder. And then the emails from the utility company or the grocery store, or the streaming services I barely use but can't seem to cancel without feeling like I'm cutting off some small joy. It's exhausting. I try to focus on work, but the weight of those numbers is always there, dragging at me, a low, persistent hum of anxiety. The cost of living just keeps rising. Rent prices are ridiculous, and every year my landlord manages to squeeze a bit more out of me. I moved to a new apartment last year, hoping to find something cheaper, but even the affordable places are way beyond what I can comfortably pay. And utilities? Forget about it. Every season, the bills spike, especially in winter and summer when I can't skimp on heating or air conditioning without feeling like my body is paying the price. Then there's groceries. I used to enjoy cooking elaborate meals, experimenting with recipes, but now I stick to the basics. Rice, beans, frozen veggies, the cheapest cuts of meat if I can swing it. Sometimes I find myself standing in the store, staring at the prices, mentally calculating how many meals I could get if I put this or that back on the shelf. It's humiliating, and it's relentless. My income hasn't kept pace with these expenses. I'm grateful to have a steady job, but the salary raises are token gestures compared to the reality of inflation. Every paycheck feels like it stretches thinner and thinner. I've tried picking up side gigs, freelance writing, dog walking, delivering food, but those are erratic and eat into the little free time I have. Plus, they drain my energy and leave me feeling worn out rather than empowered. The emotional toll is enormous. It's not just the math of money, it's the feeling of being invisible in a system that's designed to push me down. I work hard, I'm responsible, but it feels like the deck is stacked. Sometimes I lie awake at night, imagining a life where I don't have to constantly worry about bills, where I can breathe without that pressure squeezing my chest. I think about my friends who seem to glide through life, going on trips, buying nice things, saving for retirement. I'm happy for them, truly, but it stings. I wonder what they don't see, the hours I spend rationing every penny, the stress I carry quietly. Coping with all this has become a skill in itself. I try to find little moments of relief, a walk in the park, a call with a friend, a good book borrowed from the library. I've learned to ask for help when I can, though it's hard not to feel ashamed. There's a constant background of guilt, too, guilt for not being able to contribute more to my family, guilt for cutting back on social invitations, guilt for dreaming of things that seem so far out of reach. Speaking of dreams, I have a list tucked away somewhere in my mind. I wanted to travel, to move to a city where I could pursue my passion for art and creativity. I dreamed of owning a home, of waking up without the crushing weight of financial anxiety. I hoped for a time when I could save for retirement, even if it was just a small amount. But those dreams have been pushed further and further back on the shelf, replaced by urgent realities, fixing the leaky faucet, paying the car insurance, buying groceries. I'm not giving up, but I'm learning that hope needs to be patient. I try to remind myself that progress isn't always visible or fast. That saving a few dollars here, making one smart decision there, can add up. That I'm not alone in this, even if it often feels that way. And sometimes, just sometimes, I allow myself to imagine a day when the pressure eases, when I can breathe fully and plan beyond just the next bill. Until then, I keep going, counting pennies, clipping coupons, making tough choices, and holding on to those quiet dreams in my heart. Because even in this system that feels designed to trap me, I want to believe that one day, the math will change. That I'll find a way to fill that leaky bucket for good. I never thought I'd find myself here, constantly watching numbers in a bank account that barely seem to move, while my bills march upward like some relentless tide, threatening to swallow me whole. I'm 27 now, and for the last few years, the weight of money has been this invisible chain I can't seem to break free from. Every day feels like a tightrope walk over a pit I can't afford to fall into. I grew up believing that if I worked hard enough, if I was responsible and careful, I'd carve out a stable life. My parents weren't rich, but they managed. They always told me, if you budget and save, you'll be okay. But that was before the cost of living exploded and wages stayed stubbornly stuck in place. Before rent took more than half of my paycheck, before groceries felt like a luxury, before every unexpected expense turned into a small crisis. I work full-time at a job I like enough, not my dream, but stable. The paycheck arrives every 2 weeks, reliable but painfully insufficient. Rent is my biggest monster, consuming nearly 50% of what I earn. I share a tiny apartment with a roommate, partly to cut costs, but even then, utilities and internet bills make me wince every month. I used to have a car, but it felt like a never-ending pit of gas money, repairs, and insurance, so I sold it and now rely on public transport, which is more affordable but adds hours to my day. Food is another battlefield. I've become a master at stretching ingredients, clipping coupons, and hunting sales, but sometimes the hunger gnaws at me more than the bills. Eating out is a rare treat, reserved only for the most special occasions, or sometimes when I'm just too exhausted to cook and need a brief moment of normalcy. The anxiety isn't just about money itself, it's about what money controls. The freedom I once imagined I'd have feels like a distant mirage. I avoid invitations from friends because I can't afford the outings, the drinks, the tickets. I say no to spontaneous trips or hobbies that require spending. I have dreams, small ones, really, like traveling, maybe going back to school for something I love, or even just saving for a decent vacation. But those dreams are on hold, indefinitely postponed. The bills keep coming. The rent goes up every year, sometimes twice a year. Utilities rise. Groceries become more expensive. My salary stays almost exactly the same. Inflation feels like a personal attack. It's like I'm running on a treadmill set to a speed that keeps increasing, but my legs just can't keep up. No matter how fast I run, I'm still in the same place. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a constant undercurrent of stress, a quiet panic that surfaces when I open my bank app or sift through the mail. Sometimes, at night, I lie awake thinking about what I'd do if something unexpected happened, a medical bill, a broken appliance, a car repair, an emergency. The safety net I hope to build feels like a threadbare sheet, ready to tear at any moment. I find small ways to cope. I write lists, plan every expense meticulously, and try to celebrate tiny victories, a month without overdraft fees, a day when I don't have to borrow from a friend. I dive into books and podcasts about personal finance, hoping to find some secret strategy or insight to get ahead. Sometimes I vent to friends or family, but I also feel guilty for burdening them. After all, they have their own struggles. There are moments when I feel ashamed, like I've failed somehow, even though I know logically that the system is stacked against people like me. It's hard to shake the feeling that I'm trapped in a cycle I can't break, work hard, barely scrape by, watch expenses rise, repeat. The dream of financial independence feels like a cruel joke. But I hold on to hope, even if it's fragile. I remind myself that this isn't the end of my story. I save a little bit each month, no matter how small, because saving means choice. I imagine a future where I can breathe easier, where I don't have to say no all the time. I picture a day when I'm not counting pennies at the grocery store, when I can take a trip just because I want to see new places, not because I'm trying to escape. Sometimes I think about how unfair it is that so many of my friends seem to move forward effortlessly, while I'm stuck in place. But then I remember, I'm doing the best I can, with what I have. And that has to be enough for now. So here I am, still struggling, still tired, but still hoping. Hoping that someday, maybe soon, the numbers will start working in my favor, not against me. Until then, I'll keep going, step by careful step, trying to find light in the small victories, and holding on to the dreams that keep me moving forward. I never thought I'd be living like this. It's not that I grew up expecting luxury or even comfort, but I did imagine, maybe naively, that by the time I hit my mid-20s, I'd be a little more stable. A little less anxious about money every single day. Instead, here I am, feeling like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking deeper no matter how hard I try to pull myself out. The economy isn't kind right now. It feels like everything costs more: groceries, rent, utilities, transportation, and yet my paycheck stubbornly refuses to catch up. It's a cruel kind of math, expenses going up, income staying flat or barely inching forward, and suddenly the gap between where I am and where I need to be looks like a canyon. Every month I wrestle with the same battle, how to stretch what little I have across the necessities of living. Some mornings, I wake up with a pit in my stomach. The calendar reminds me of bills due, rent coming up, the looming student loan payment I can't defer any longer. I sit at the edge of my bed, scrolling through my bank app, heart sinking with each number I see. I'm not poor by some standards, but I'm not secure either, not by any stretch. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and that phrase feels like a trap. One misstep, a car breakdown, a medical bill, an unexpected expense, and everything collapses. There's this constant mental weight, this fog that clouds my days. At work, I'm physically present but half of my mind drifts to whether I can afford lunch or if I should just skip it to save a few bucks. When I'm out with friends, I'm the one who suggests the cheapest option, declines invitations because I simply can't justify spending on anything non-essential, and laughs a little too hard to hide the embarrassment of never being able to keep up. It's isolating in a way I didn't expect. I'm surrounded by people who seem to float effortlessly through life's expenses, and here I am, clutching at pennies, trying to stay afloat. I try to be resourceful, meal prepping to avoid eating out, hunting for deals, turning off lights to save on electricity, biking to work instead of taking the bus. But those tiny savings feel like drops in a vast ocean. The rent eats up nearly half my income, and utilities add another bite. The rest is a juggling act with groceries and transportation. Every month I make a budget, and every month I fail to stick to it. Some days, the stress becomes overwhelming. I find myself lying awake at night, heart pounding, wondering if I'm failing at adulting. I wonder if I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm just unlucky. I can feel the tension in my chest, the tightness that comes with worry. It's exhausting. I hate feeling like this, like a hamster on a wheel, running faster and faster but getting nowhere. And then there's the dream part, what I've had to put on hold, sometimes indefinitely. I wanted to travel, to see the world beyond this city, beyond these walls that feel more like a cage. I dreamed of going back to school for a master's degree, hoping it would open doors to better opportunities. I wanted to save enough to move somewhere cheaper or safer, maybe buy a little place to call my own. But those dreams seem distant, almost like they belong to someone else's life. Sometimes I catch myself imagining a different future, one where my income grows steadily and my expenses don't feel like an avalanche. I picture a small apartment filled with plants, a modest but reliable car, weekends spent on hikes or with friends without the constant calculation of cost. I imagine waking up not to dread, but to possibility. To cope, I've tried talking about it with close friends, but the conversations quickly turn awkward. Money feels taboo, and I don't want pity, I just want understanding. I find comfort in small routines, in the ritual of making a warm cup of tea or reading a book before bed. I remind myself that this situation is temporary, even if it doesn't feel like it now. I focus on what I can control, learning new skills, applying to better jobs, trying to build a cushion even if it's tiny. Still, there are moments when the hopelessness creeps in. When I wonder if the system is designed to keep people like me perpetually struggling. I see news about inflation, corporate profits, and wage stagnation, and I feel small, powerless. It's hard to believe in the idea of upward mobility when every step forward is met with 2 steps back. But despite it all, I hold on to hope. Because what else can I do? I remind myself that many before me have faced hardship and found ways through. I try to be kind to myself, to acknowledge that surviving this every day is its own kind of victory. One day, I hope to look back and see this time as the crucible that shaped my resilience. For now, I'm here, trying to navigate a world where the cost of living grows faster than my paycheck, where every decision feels weighted by dollars and cents, and where dreams wait patiently on the other side of struggle. I may feel trapped, but I'm not giving up. I can't. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. Some days it feels like I'm just treading water, barely keeping my head above the surface while the world around me surges ahead. I'm 26 now, and the reality of money has settled into every corner of my life like an unshakable shadow. It's this constant, gnawing pressure that no one really prepares you for, the creeping anxiety of watching your expenses outpace your income and wondering how long you can keep making it work before everything comes crashing down. I grew up thinking that if I got a decent job and worked hard, things would fall into place. My parents always said, just stick with it, keep climbing. But climbing what? The ladder seems to stretch infinitely upward while the ground beneath me gets slicker. My paycheck arrives every 2 weeks like clockwork, but it feels smaller than before because everything else has ballooned: rent, groceries, utilities, transportation. The price tags don't just grow, they sprint ahead of me, leaving me breathless and scrambling. Some mornings, I wake up to the sound of my phone buzzing with a reminder about a bill due, and I have to steel myself before I check the balance. It's become a ritual I hate but can't avoid. There's a dull ache that settles in my chest when I see the numbers, that sinking feeling that no matter how hard I try, I'm never really moving forward. I feel trapped, like I'm stuck inside a loop of making choices I never wanted to make, always cutting back on the things that once brought me joy. I remember when I was younger, dreaming about the future. I'd imagine a little apartment of my own, maybe with a cozy nook for reading and a small balcony where I could grow some herbs. I thought about travel, not just quick trips, but really exploring new places, getting lost in unfamiliar streets and stories. I wanted to go back to school someday, maybe pursue something creative. But those dreams have all been shoved aside, squeezed out by reality. I tell myself it's just temporary, that once I get a raise or switch jobs, things will ease up. But those promises feel hollow when the bills keep piling up. Every choice now feels calculated. Do I spend extra on fresh vegetables and healthy food, or buy the cheapest processed stuff and hope my body doesn't revolt? Should I risk taking the bus even if it means waking up earlier and walking a mile, or pay a little more for rideshares to save time? Can I afford to see a doctor if something feels off, or do I push through the pain and hope it's nothing serious? I count every cent and still, the margins vanish before I can breathe. Social life is a tricky thing when money's tight. Invitations to dinners or movies come with an undercurrent of stress. Can I say yes this time without regretting it? I've learned to say no a lot more often, even when I don't want to. People don't always get it, and sometimes I feel invisible, like I'm missing out on moments that everyone else seems to enjoy effortlessly. The loneliness creeps in quietly, wrapped in the practical need to save rather than splurge. At work, I put on a brave face. No one sees the worry behind my smile or hears the sigh when the day's over and I check my bank app again. I push myself to stay focused, hoping that maybe the next promotion or opportunity will pull me out of this rut. But even that feels uncertain. The economy is so unstable that jobs feel more like fragile lifelines than stepping stones. I try to find small moments to cope. Sometimes it's a late-night walk when the city is quiet and I can breathe without the noise of my own thoughts. Other times it's scribbling in a journal, letting the frustration spill out on paper because talking about it feels too vulnerable. I hold on to the hope that these small acts of self-care are enough to keep me grounded, even when the system feels rigged against me. There's a part of me that gets angry at the rising costs, the stagnant wages, the endless ads promising a better life I can't afford. But mostly, I feel tired. Tired of just surviving and wanting something more. I want to believe that someday, I'll break free from this cycle. That my paycheck will stretch farther than my worries, that my dreams won't have to wait forever on the sidelines. For now, I keep going. I budget, I sacrifice, I remind myself that this is just one chapter, not the whole story. I hope that the future holds a chance for me to breathe easier, to live without counting every penny, and to reclaim the dreams I've had to postpone. Until then, I'm here, quietly struggling but still holding on. I never imagined money could feel so heavy, like a weight pressing down on my chest every single day. When I was younger, I thought adulthood would be this amazing freedom, a time to explore, create, maybe even travel. Instead, it feels like I'm stuck in a never-ending cycle of stretching every dollar, wondering how I'll cover rent, groceries, bills, and somehow still have a little left for myself. But there's never enough. It's hard to explain how relentless this pressure is unless you're living it. The cost of everything seems to be climbing faster than I can keep up. My paycheck might go up a tiny bit, but the price of food, gas, and rent? It skyrockets. Every month, I'm forced to make decisions that feel like they chip away at my dignity. Do I skip buying fresh produce and settle for canned goods? Do I take the bus instead of an occasional Uber, even when I'm exhausted after work? Should I turn the heating down, even if my apartment starts feeling like a fridge in winter? These aren't choices anyone should have to make, but they've become my reality. Most mornings, I wake up with this knot in my stomach, a mix of anxiety and frustration. It's the same feeling I get when I open my laptop to check my bank account, just to remind myself that there's barely anything there. I keep a spreadsheet to track every expense, hoping to find some miracle saving I overlooked, but the numbers never lie. The harder I try to manage, the more it feels like the system is designed to keep me trapped. Bills pile up. Unexpected expenses, like a broken phone screen or a sudden medical copay, throw everything into chaos. I work a full-time job in retail, a position I thought would be a stepping stone. I hoped I'd gain experience, save some money, and then move on to something better. But that something better keeps slipping away like a mirage. I take on extra shifts whenever I can, but it's exhausting. My body and mind crave rest, but I push myself to the brink just to keep up with mounting costs. I'm always tired, sometimes irritable, and often overwhelmed. There are nights when I lie awake thinking about how long I can keep this up before I burn out completely. It's not just the practical side of things that weighs on me, it's the emotional toll. I feel embarrassed when friends invite me out and I have to decline. It's hard to explain why I can't join a night at the bar or a weekend trip when inside I'm screaming, I want to go, but I just can't afford it. Over time, I started withdrawing from social invitations because the sting of saying no repeatedly becomes too much. I miss out on creating memories, sharing laughs, and building connections. Loneliness sneaks in, subtle but persistent. I try to cope the best I can. Sometimes I escape into books, movies, or music, little islands of peace in an otherwise stormy sea. I've learned to cook simple meals at home, not because I enjoy it, but because eating out is a luxury I can't afford. I even started growing herbs on my windowsill, a tiny green patch that brings me a sliver of joy. On the worst days, I remind myself that this is temporary, that someday, somehow, things will get better. But that hope can feel fragile, almost like a whisper drowned out by the noise of reality. Dreams I once had seem so far away now. I wanted to travel, to see new places, meet new people, maybe even live abroad for a while. I imagined going back to school to study something I loved, something that could open doors to a career with stability and respect. I dreamed about saving enough to move into a nicer apartment or even buy a small car so I wouldn't have to rely on public transport. But every one of those dreams has been postponed, some indefinitely. I tell myself it's just until I get through this tough patch, but just until keeps stretching longer and longer. Some days, I catch myself wondering if I'm doing something wrong. Am I not working hard enough? Not managing money wisely enough? But then I see headlines about inflation rates, housing crises, wage stagnation. I hear stories of others in similar shoes, working 2 or 3 jobs, yet still struggling to make ends meet. It's a collective struggle, not just a personal failure. And that realization is both comforting and frustrating, comforting because I'm not alone, frustrating because it feels like the system itself is broken, built to favor those who already have. I want to believe in the future again. I want to imagine a time when I can breathe without counting pennies, when I can say yes to spontaneous plans, when I don't have to sacrifice basic needs for a little security. I want to build a life where money isn't a constant source of fear and shame. Maybe I'll go back to school someday, or find a better paying job that values my skills. Maybe the economy will shift, or policy changes will make housing and healthcare more affordable. I hold on to these possibilities, even if they seem faint. For now, I keep moving forward, one day at a time. I keep tracking expenses, working extra hours, saying no to what I want in order to pay for what I need. I try to find small moments of joy, a good conversation, a walk in the park, a warm cup of tea. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance, even if the world often makes me feel otherwise. Being trapped in this financial squeeze is one of the hardest things I've faced. It's a battle that wears on the soul, a test of patience, resilience, and hope. But I'm still here, still trying. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough, for now. Every morning feels like waking up inside a loop I didn't sign up for. I sit on the edge of my bed, staring at the ceiling, the weight of yesterday's worries still pressing down on my chest. Bills, rent, groceries, gas, each one a reminder that my paycheck isn't keeping pace with the world around me. It's like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much I pour in, it's never enough. I'm 26, working full-time and still feeling like I'm barely treading water. The job pays okay, but not enough to keep ahead of rising rent prices, gas hikes, and everything else that somehow manages to cost more every week. I remember when I first moved out on my own, there was this spark of freedom, a hope that if I just worked hard enough, I could build something for myself. But the spark has dimmed, worn down by months of scrimping and stretching every dollar, and a constant background noise of not enough. It's frustrating. I want to save, to plan for a future where I'm not just surviving, but thriving. But the reality is I'm often choosing between essentials. Do I pay the full electric bill or eat properly this week? Should I skip that doctor's appointment because co-pays add up too fast? The smallest emergencies feel like they could tip everything into chaos. Last month, my car broke down, and the repair bill hit like a punch to the gut. I had to borrow from a friend I barely know, and even now the guilt sits heavy with me. The system feels rigged. I watch prices rise faster than my income, and I can't help but feel trapped. There's this invisible treadmill where expenses sprint ahead, and I'm stuck running just to keep from falling behind. I think about the rent increases that come every year, how landlords expect more and more, while my paycheck feels frozen. I hear about inflation on the news, but it's not just a number, it's the empty pantry on a Thursday night, it's passing on the birthday dinner because I can't afford it, it's the constant background stress that never leaves. It's exhausting, physically and mentally. Some days, the pressure makes me feel like I'm drowning, but I try to hide it because admitting the struggle feels like admitting failure. Yet, beneath the surface, there's this gnawing anxiety that I'm falling behind while everyone else seems to move forward. I scroll through social media and see friends buying homes, traveling, starting families. And I feel stuck, like life's milestones are just out of reach, visible but unreachable. To cope, I've developed a routine of small, rigid budgeting and a kind of mental compartmentalizing. I tell myself, just get through today, breaking down the endless pressure into manageable pieces. I cook at home, meal prep, and cut out all extras, no coffee runs, no nights out. Sometimes I binge watch old shows to escape for a few hours, but even then, the thoughts creep in, what if I lose this job? What if rent jumps again next year? The hardest part is the postponing of dreams. I wanted to go back to school, to get a degree that could open doors. But tuition costs are astronomical, and taking on more debt feels like adding chains rather than breaking free. I dream about travel, about seeing the world beyond my city, but plane tickets and hotel costs are fantasies for now. I thought maybe I'd save for a down payment on a place of my own someday, but every month that goal slips further away. It's like I'm putting my life on hold, waiting for a break that might never come. There are moments when I let myself hope, quiet moments when I imagine what it would feel like to breathe without that constant financial tightrope. I picture a future where I'm not waking up with a pit in my stomach, where I can take care of myself without the fear of an unexpected bill wiping me out. I want to feel secure, to have the freedom to say yes to things without second guessing, to build something stable and lasting. But for now, the struggle is real and unrelenting. Each paycheck comes with a familiar mix of relief and dread, the numbers barely covering what's owed. I remind myself I'm not alone, that so many others are caught in the same grind, trying to make sense of a system that seems designed to keep us scrambling. I cling to small victories, making rent, paying off a credit card, finding a cheaper grocery store, because they're proof that I'm still here, still fighting. It's a quiet kind of courage, the one that doesn't look like a headline or a big story but lives in the everyday choices to keep going. Even when it feels impossible, even when the future feels uncertain, I hold on to the hope that one day, all this pressure will ease. Maybe then, the dreams I've had to shelve will get dusted off and brought back to life. Maybe then, I'll finally feel like I'm living, not just surviving. Until then, I keep waking up, I keep showing up, and I keep trying to find a way forward in a world that's moving too fast and costing too much. And maybe that's enough, for now. I never thought I'd be writing a story like this about myself, but here I am, trying to put into words something that feels heavy, constant, and almost impossible to shake off. I'm in my mid-20s, living in a city that's supposed to be full of opportunities, but for me, it often feels like a trap. The kind where the walls are closing in slowly, inch by inch, and no matter how hard you push back, they don't budge. Money. It's the first thing on my mind when I wake up and the last thing I think about before I fall asleep. I'm stuck in this relentless tug-of-war where expenses climb faster than I can make money. Rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, everything just keeps rising. But my paycheck? It's more or less the same as it was 2 years ago. Maybe a little more, if I'm lucky, but never enough to catch up with the soaring cost of living. Sometimes I wonder if I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away just as I get close. Every day feels like a careful balancing act. I've had to make so many tiny sacrifices that add up. I skip on the coffee shop runs that used to be little treats, now they feel like luxuries I can't afford. When friends invite me out, I often say no, not because I don't want to see them, but because I can't justify the expense. That's one of the hardest parts, missing out on moments I know I'll regret, but feeling powerless to do otherwise. I keep a detailed spreadsheet of my budget, something I never thought I'd need to be this meticulous about. I track every single cent, every bill, every food purchase. But the numbers never quite work out in my favor. It's like the more I try to save, the more unexpected costs pop up, a broken phone screen, a sudden medical bill, or a car repair. These things aren't just inconvenient, they feel catastrophic when your finances are already stretched thin. This constant stress is exhausting. I feel like I'm carrying a weight that no one else can see. Some days, I'm fine, just numb enough to get through the workday, laugh at a joke, or focus on a task. But other days, it all crashes in at once. The anxiety bubbles up, turning my stomach into knots, making it hard to breathe. I lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'll make it through the next month. It's this low, gnawing fear that I might never get ahead. The system feels rigged. It's like I'm in a game where the rules keep changing against me. Inflation rises, the housing market gets crazier, wages stay stagnant, and the cost of education and healthcare keeps climbing. I want to believe in the idea that hard work pays off, but it's hard to see when I work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on and still can't save for an emergency fund, let alone something bigger like buying a home or going back to school. There's a kind of isolation to it, too. I don't talk about money struggles with most people because I'm embarrassed. There's this stigma, this unspoken rule that you have to have your life together by now, that being in debt or living paycheck to paycheck is somehow a personal failure. But it's not. It's just reality for so many of us. I try to remind myself of that when I'm feeling hopeless. To cope, I hold on to small things that give me some relief. Sometimes it's a walk in the park after work, just breathing fresh air and letting my mind wander. Other times, it's calling my best friend and venting, even if it's just for a few minutes. Music helps, too, songs that resonate with how I'm feeling, or ones that make me feel less alone. And I try to practice gratitude, even when it feels forced. I'm lucky to have a roof over my head, food on the table, and people who care. But those things don't erase the pressure or the exhaustion. I've had to postpone a lot of dreams. I used to want to travel, to see the world beyond this city, to experience different cultures and meet new people. That feels so far away now, like a luxury for another lifetime. I wanted to go back to school, maybe get a degree or certification that could open new doors, but the price of tuition and the fear of taking on more debt holds me back. I wanted to start saving for a future, retirement, a family, a home, but it's hard to think that far ahead when I'm just trying to survive today. Sometimes I imagine a different life, one where money isn't the constant worry. A life where I could take a break without fear, where I could say yes to opportunities instead of no because of finances. But I also know that imagining alone won't change anything. I have to keep pushing forward, keep looking for ways to improve my situation, even if the progress feels painfully slow. I hold on to hope, even if it feels fragile. Hope that the economy will shift, that wages will rise, that affordable housing will become a reality. Hope that the sacrifices I'm making now will lead to something better down the road. But mostly, I hope for kindness, kindness to myself, kindness from others, and kindness in the system that feels so cold and unyielding. This is my truth: living under the weight of ongoing financial pressure is not just about numbers or budgets, it's about feeling trapped in a system that seems designed to keep me running in place. It's about the emotional toll of constantly choosing between necessities and dreams, and the quiet hope that someday, somehow, I'll break free. And maybe telling this story is part of breaking free, acknowledging the struggle, naming the pain, and refusing to be silent about it. Because if my story can help even one person feel less alone, then maybe it's worth sharing after all. I never thought I'd feel so tied down by money, by the invisible chains of bills and prices that seem to climb relentlessly while my paycheck barely budges. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but the floor beneath your feet never actually goes anywhere. No matter how fast or hard I try, I stay in the same place, or worse, fall a little bit behind every month. I'm 27 now. For a long time, I thought by this age I'd be living a bit more freely. Maybe owning a little apartment, or at least feeling like I had some breathing room in my life. Instead, every day feels like a tightrope walk, trying not to lose balance because one wrong step means the difference between making rent and getting hit with late fees or going hungry that week. It's not that I'm reckless. I'm careful, probably more so than a lot of people my age. I budget every penny, clip coupons, hunt down discounts, and cook all my meals at home, even if it's just a plain pasta dish or rice with beans. I don't go out much. Social life is expensive when you factor in even the smallest dinners or drinks with friends. So often, I turn down invitations because I know I just can't afford it. It sucks. It's lonely sometimes, but I remind myself it's temporary, though temporary has stretched on for years. The economic environment around me feels like a weight that crushes all the air out of my chest. Rent in my city has gone up twice in the last 3 years, faster than my salary's grown, which is basically at a snail's pace. Utilities, groceries, gas, everything inches higher every month. I watch the numbers climb on my phone's banking app and feel my stomach twist with anxiety. No matter how much I try to cut back, I can't stop the rising cost of living. Every paycheck is swallowed up before I even get a chance to breathe. Rent, utilities, groceries, phone bill, student loans, and the occasional emergency expense, there's barely anything left for savings, let alone investing in my future. I postponed so many dreams because of this. I wanted to travel, learn a new language, maybe go back to school for a master's degree. All these things I see others doing, things I once thought were within reach for me, now feel like distant fantasies. Sometimes I lie awake at night, the worry swirling in my mind like a storm. How long can I keep this up? What if something unexpected happens, a medical emergency, a car repair, or even losing my job? The thought terrifies me. I feel stuck, like I'm spinning my wheels in quicksand. I want to break free, but every direction feels blocked by the towering cost of survival. There's this constant, gnawing feeling of not being enough, not just financially, but in life. Watching friends buy houses, start families, and chase passions makes me feel left behind. I tell myself their journeys are different, but it's hard not to feel like I'm failing at something that should be so basic: stability, security, a life where money doesn't feel like a constant threat. Still, I try to cope the best I can. I find small pockets of joy, like reading books from the library, jogging in the park, or spending quiet evenings with close friends who understand my situation. Those moments remind me that life isn't only about money, even if it feels like it sometimes. I'm learning to be kind to myself and celebrate the little victories, like making it through the month without overdrafting, or cooking a meal that tastes better than I expected. I've also started looking for side gigs and better paying opportunities, though it's exhausting balancing extra work with my day job and the limited energy I have left. It's hard not to feel burned out, physically and emotionally. But I'm trying to keep my eyes on a horizon I can't quite see clearly yet, a future where I don't have to worry so much about rent or groceries, where I can save money for the things I want, not just for emergencies. One day, I hope to own a home. To decorate it however I like, have a little garden, maybe a dog. I dream of traveling to places that seem magical in photos, Japan, Italy, New Zealand. I want to take classes again, learn skills that excite me, not just ones that pay the bills. But for now, those dreams are on hold, tucked away like fragile paper boats waiting for calmer waters. Writing this down, I realize how much this struggle has shaped me. It's made me resilient, resourceful, and painfully aware of how fragile financial security is. It's also made me long for change, not just for myself but for the world around me. Because it's not just personal choices that trap me, it's a system that feels rigged against people like me, where the cost of living rises faster than our paychecks, and the gap widens every day. I want to believe there's a way out. That someday, I'll look back on this chapter and see it as a hard but defining moment, not the whole story. Until then, I'm holding on to hope, one careful step at a time. A young adult navigating the unrelenting pressure of today's economic reality. I never thought I'd feel this way, like I'm constantly treading water but still sinking. I'm 27, and it feels like every single day, I'm caught in a loop that's impossible to break out of. The bills come, the rent climbs, the groceries get more expensive, and my paycheck, well, it barely budges. It's like being stuck in quicksand, but instead of sinking, I'm just exhausted from trying to keep my head above the surface. I remember when I first moved out on my own. I was excited, so ready to live my life, make my own choices, and finally have control over my time. But I didn't realize how fast those dreams would be swallowed by reality. The apartment I found was already on the cheaper side, a small one-bedroom on the edge of town. I thought I could manage it. I thought if I cut back on eating out, skipped the weekend trips, and saved a little here and there, I'd be fine. But fine never lasted long. The utility bills rose, insurance premiums went up, and my phone plan seemed to cost more every few months for reasons I didn't fully understand. Work isn't bad. I'm lucky to have a steady job, especially with the economy feeling so uncertain. But it's a modest income, nothing close to what's needed to feel secure. I've taken on extra shifts when I can, picked up freelance gigs here and there, but it's like pouring water into a leaky bucket. Every extra dollar earned just gets swallowed up by a new expense or an unexpected cost, a car repair, a medical bill, or the creeping increase of the cost of living that nobody seems to talk about openly. There's this constant weight on my chest, like I'm carrying something invisible but unbearably heavy. The pressure isn't just financial, it's emotional and mental. I can't fully relax because I'm always calculating, always worried about what's next. I look at my bank account more times than I care to admit. I make mental notes about what I can skip, what I can delay, what I absolutely cannot afford to miss. Sometimes I feel ashamed, like I'm failing at adulthood. Why is it so hard to keep up? Why does it feel like the system is built against me? It's hard not to compare. Social media doesn't help, everyone else's lives seem so effortless, their weekends filled with brunches, travel, new clothes. Meanwhile, I'm rationing toilet paper, choosing generic brands, and clipping coupons like I'm some caricature of a struggling person. The irony is that I'm working just as hard, if not harder, but my income doesn't stretch the same way. Inflation is a silent thief, stealing my security without me noticing until the fridge is emptier, and the calendar is filled with unpaid reminders. Sometimes, I lie awake at night thinking about what I wanted my life to look like at this age. I dreamed of going back to school, maybe getting a degree that would open doors to better jobs. I wanted to travel, even if just a little, to see new places, meet new people. I thought I'd have enough saved to move into a nicer apartment, maybe start dating without the stress of money always looming. But those dreams have been put on hold, indefinitely postponed like some unpaid bill that keeps getting pushed down the list. I cope the best way I can. I've learned to celebrate small wins, the month I finally managed to save $100, the day I don't have to borrow from friends or use a credit card. I take walks in the park instead of going to the movies. I find joy in cooking simple meals, learning to stretch ingredients, and turning everyday moments into something worth savoring. Friends don't always understand why I decline invitations or why I'm always counting pennies. I try not to be bitter or resentful, but sometimes it seeps through in moments I don't want it to. I want to believe things will get better. I want to believe that the economy will stabilize, that wages will rise in a way that matches the cost of living. That the government will do something to ease the burden on people like me who are caught in this endless squeeze. But hope is fragile. I try to hold on to it by imagining a future where I'm free from this constant pressure, where I'm not always choosing between rent and groceries, where I can afford a night out without guilt, where my dreams don't have to wait any longer. But until then, I keep going. Because what choice do I have? I keep working, keep budgeting, keep hoping. I'm trapped in this system, yes, but I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming, even if those dreams feel distant right now. It's hard to put into words how exhausting it is to live in this state of ongoing financial pressure. It's not just about money, it's about freedom, dignity, and peace of mind. It's about waking up every day knowing you have to make tough choices with no clear end in sight. I'm tired, but I'm not giving up. Maybe that's all I can do for now, keep moving forward, one small step at a time, hoping that someday, the weight will lift. I wake up most mornings with this heavy knot in my chest, even before my feet touch the floor. It's like a dull ache that doesn't quite go away, the constant pressure of money, or rather, the lack of it. I'm 27 now, but sometimes it feels like I've been trapped in this financial treadmill forever, running harder but never moving forward. Bills pile up, prices climb, and my paycheck somehow feels smaller every month, even if the number on it stays the same. The economy doesn't just exist somewhere out there on the news, it's right here in my kitchen, in my bank account, in the choices I make every single day. I remember when I first got my job after college, hopeful and excited. I thought I'd be able to start building a life, rent a decent apartment, maybe save a little, and even treat myself sometimes. But reality hit fast and hard. Rent gobbled up half my income. Utilities, groceries, transportation, all the essentials, were rising steadily. It felt like the cost of living was sprinting ahead while my salary was stuck in slow motion. Every month, I sit down with my bank statements and bills, and I map out the budget like a battlefield strategy. What gets paid first? The rent, always. Utilities next. Then groceries. Anything left over is for gas and maybe a cheap coffee, if I'm lucky. There's no room for extras, no dinners out, no new clothes, no vacations. Even necessities sometimes get rationed. The last time I bought a new winter coat was 2 years ago. My old one is threadbare, but it still does the job, so it stays. This endless balancing act wears me down. It's not just the numbers, it's the feeling of being stuck in a system where expenses grow faster than my income, and no matter how hard I try, I can't catch up. I watch the prices rise, groceries, gas, healthcare. It's like a tide that pulls the floor from beneath me little by little. I've started cutting corners in ways that sometimes surprise me, stretching food, skipping doctor visits, delaying car maintenance. Every time I do, there's a little voice inside that feels guilty, like I'm betraying some basic self-respect. The emotional weight of it all is exhausting. Some days, I feel ashamed. I'm supposed to be an adult, managing my life, but I can't keep up. I'm anxious almost constantly, worrying about what might break next, a flat tire, a surprise medical bill, or even just the electric bill doubling. My friends talk about saving for their first homes or trips abroad, and I smile along, but inside I'm screaming because those dreams feel like fairy tales. Sleep doesn't come easy either. Lying awake at night, I replay every expense, every missed opportunity. Sometimes I cry quietly, feeling overwhelmed by the crushing pressure. I'm scared about the future because it doesn't seem to hold much promise. The idea of buying a home, starting a family, or even just having a stable safety net feels like a distant fantasy. To cope, I've learned to find small pockets of peace. I take walks in the park and let myself breathe deeply, even if my mind races. I binge on free shows or dive into books from the library, escaping for a little while from reality. I've joined online communities where others share their struggles, and it helps not to feel alone in this. I remind myself that I'm doing the best I can, even when it feels like it's not enough. Despite everything, I hold on to hope. I still dream of a life where money isn't a constant weight on my shoulders. I imagine a future where I can invest in myself, maybe go back to school, travel, or finally buy a home. Those dreams feel fragile, like glass, but they're alive. They keep me going on the hardest days. I'm learning to be kind to myself, even when the system feels ruthless and unfair. This is my story, not just of struggle, but of resilience. I might be trapped now, but I'm still here, still fighting, still hoping. It's been like this for years now, that slow, creeping pressure that never quite lets up. Some days, it feels like I'm just treading water, barely keeping my head above the surface while the waves of bills and costs crash down around me. I'm 27, living in a tiny apartment I can barely afford, working a job that pays the rent but leaves almost nothing for anything else. And every month, the numbers get scarier. Rent goes up, groceries get more expensive, the utility bills climb higher, but my paycheck stays the same. Sometimes, it even feels like my income is shrinking when I consider inflation and how much less my dollar buys now than it did 2 years ago. When I first moved out on my own after college, I was hopeful. I had dreams, big ones, honestly. I wanted to travel, maybe save up for a house someday, get a dog, start a little garden on my balcony. The kind of things people talk about when they picture their adult life. But slowly, those dreams began to feel like luxuries I couldn't afford. The more I tried to save, the more something unexpected seemed to come up, a car repair, a doctor's visit, a leaky faucet that had to be fixed before it became a disaster. And on top of all that, there's the gnawing weight of student loans that never seem to shrink, even though I pay what I can every month. It's exhausting. Some days I wake up and the first thing I think is, how am I going to make this month work? Not in a vague or hopeful way, but in a cold, precise calculation. Can I skip the fancy coffee? Probably. Do I have enough left to buy vegetables or do I have to go for the cheaper instant noodles again? And what about the phone bill? I can't go without my phone, it's how I stay connected to work and my friends, but every month it's another $80 that I have to squeeze out of my budget. Sometimes I skip meals or eat less, not because I'm dieting, but because I literally don't have the money to buy enough food. The financial pressure seeps into every corner of my life. Social plans have become rare. Going out means spending money I'd rather save, so I usually say no, even when I'm lonely. It's not just about the money, it's about not feeling like I have the right to enjoy life or treat myself because I have this looming responsibility to be responsible and keep everything afloat. I've watched friends buy cars, go on trips, and move into nicer places, and I'm happy for them, but a part of me feels left behind. Like I'm stuck in this endless loop where expenses grow faster than my income, and no matter how hard I work, I'll never catch up. The thing is, it's not just about money. It's about the way this constant pressure wears you down emotionally. Anxiety is a constant companion. I lie awake some nights, heart racing, thinking about what I'll do if I get sick, or if my job hours get cut, or if the rent goes up again next year. I try to stay positive, but it's hard not to feel trapped, like I'm on a hamster wheel, running but not moving forward. It makes me question everything. Why did I pick this career? Why didn't I choose something more lucrative? Why did I think that hard work alone would be enough? And I have to be honest, sometimes I feel ashamed. Like maybe I'm not managing my money right, or I'm not doing enough. But deep down, I know this isn't about personal failure, it's a system that's stacked against people like me. The wages for my job just don't keep up with the real cost of living. The safety nets are threadbare or non-existent. It's a cycle of financial stress that's hard to break out of when every extra cent has to be accounted for just to survive. Despite all this, I try to cope. I've gotten really good at budgeting, at clipping coupons, at finding the cheapest deals and using every loyalty card I can. I've taken on side gigs here and there, though they're exhausting and sometimes they don't pay enough to make a difference. I've learned to live with less, to find small moments of joy in things that don't cost much, like watching sunsets, listening to podcasts, or connecting with friends online. I try to remind myself that this won't last forever. That someday, things could change. But that someday feels far away, and sometimes it feels like it's slipping further and further out of reach. I've had to postpone so many dreams, a trip to visit my family out of state, getting a pet to keep me company, even the idea of saving for a down payment on a place of my own feels like a joke. Instead, I focus on the present, on making it through another month, paying the bills, and keeping a roof over my head. Some days, when the weight feels too heavy, I remind myself why I keep going. It's for those small dreams that refuse to die. The hope that maybe one day I'll have the freedom to make choices based on what I want, not just what I can afford. That I can breathe without this constant pressure crushing my spirit. It's a quiet hope, fragile but stubborn, like a seed buried deep in the soil waiting for the right season to bloom. Until then, I keep fighting in my own way, balancing on this tightrope of financial uncertainty, doing the best I can with what I have, and trying not to let the pressure crush the parts of me that still dream. It's not an easy path, and some days it feels lonely. But sharing this truth, admitting the struggle, feels like a small step toward breaking free. Because maybe, just maybe, acknowledging the trap is the first step to finding a way out. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.